car. I tried to do this before on the way over. The sun got my phone overheated and I couldn't finish. So we're trying on the way back, and I hope that there isn't too much noise from the fan for this to come through. Anyway, let's close that vent. I'll open that vent. At this Planck level, the universe operates as a set of finite automata. And within the dimensional ranges that have been discussed in other videos of tetric, cubic, and dodic space. My terms. But I decided that since other people have been talking about the possibility of the same thing, that there's automata at the Planck length, that I decided that there are classes of behavior within that range, and I just wanted to quickly summarize what those were. So there's three ways to go. There's singular action, there is aggregate action, and there is massively aggregate action. Then there are three classes of actions within those groupings. Trivial action, an action that doesn't have meaning in the future states, where it's sort of like a branching logic where it could do A or B, so it does A or B trivially, and then it goes back to where either this branch rejoins to the same composite state later, immediately. It pretty much goes out and in immediately. Then there's substantial action, and then there's critical action. Substantial action makes a change. It typically represents a change in the state of the system, such as at the most complicated level of particle decay. Critical actions are ones that are reinforcing to a process, such as a stable particle, a proton lasting for billions of years, trillions of years, whatever. So, and substantial action also represents the translation of a particle through space. And so it's a combination of substantial actions and critical actions within the particle that represent causality in general. And the tree of causalities or modes, going from single to aggregate to massively aggregate and cyclic. There are cyclic and simple modes of behavior. It's a tree that the higher order critical functions are massively aggregate requires a critical operation at the aggregate, which requires a critical mode of operation at the single. Whereas if you're substantial can drive substantial. So a single substantial can be a composite or a contributing factor of an aggregate substantial. An aggregate substantial can be a contributing factor of a massively aggregate substantial. And criticals can also drop down to substantial. You have a critical single can support a critical single or a critical aggregate directly, and a critical aggregate can support a substantial aggregate or a substantial, massively aggregate substantial. So sort of like a ladder or antenna frame where you have cross members that go like this from critical down to substantial, substantial to substantial. Trivial interactions only happen at the single level. While certainly there could be aggregates that end up getting back to the same state, they're within such an evolved context that everything around them is going to change, making the fact that they would have gotten to that state in either case not necessarily trivial because other things would change. Whereas a single trivial action could come back to result in the same trivial state, and everything around it would have evolved identically no matter which way that the initial trivial happened. Now, perhaps there's a way that you could have aggregate trivials, but they're not. They're trivial. So trivial or trivial. Even if they are possible, you should be able to think of them the same way. Boomer.